Welcome to Sisflix, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sisflix are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Naja, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister. What's up, yo?
Nothing much. It's December, and that's crazy.
It's December, and I hate that for us.
I mean, I don't hate that. It's just,
I do.
It's going by so I feel like this year flew by.
This year is flying by, and something else that is flying by is how many episodes we've done for this podcast. I wanted to say a couple of things. Some housekeeping, which is what I hear other real podcasters say on their shows. We are just coming out of Thanksgiving. November was a pretty eventful month for us as a brand new little baby toddler learning how to walk podcast. We released some of our biggest episodes, which were the red, white, and royal blue episodes. If you are listening to us fresh and you haven't heard those, go back and do so. We think they're pretty fun. But it got a lot of people to kind of come in and give our podcast a try for the first time. So if you're here and you're new and you came to us through red, white, and royal blue, I'm a poet and I don't even know it. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us a shot. Even if this ends up not being your cup of tea, we're a little bit too long-winded, whatever. Thank you for trying us out regardless. We really appreciate that you're here. And we're really happy to meet new people on social media. There are a handful of people that interact with us on Instagram. And we're super excited to get to know listeners and talk to you guys and share.
Yeah, we love chatting with you guys.
We really do. We love connecting with people. That's really a huge part of why we started doing this podcast to begin with. And yeah, we're just really grateful
to connect with people on the movies we really enjoy, and that taking those deep dives into movies and to nitpick at details. It couldn't have just been us. So
it couldn't have. And we're glad that we've got a couple dozen more or a couple hundred more people that are willing to join us on these journeys with these movies. As always, if you're new here or if you've been with us for 2.5 months, even if you're not on Instagram or you're not on TikTok, whatever, you can answer little Q&As through Spotify or leave a review on Apple Podcasts and let us know what you want to hear or what you're interested in seeing. We're doing a lot of learning about people that want to listen to us and the type of people that we can reach and share this type of stuff with. So it would be really cool to learn a little bit more about you directly from you and who you are and what you're interested in, how you found us and why.
And also, sharing is caring. So if you really enjoyed our format and our podcast and our subject matter, share with a friend. So this is going to be our 7th movie recap. Although it's not going to be so much of a recap because we've only seen the movie once. We haven't gotten the chance to rewatch
and take notes
and do our zero in observations. But we're covering the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was an amazing movie and an amazing book.
I really enjoyed this book. So the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, for those of you who are not in the know, is the latest Hunger Games installment, right? Is brand spanking new and is not on streaming yet. We saw it one time in theaters and we fucking loved it. And Paola is in the process of reading the book, but I read the book last summer and I am so hype. It's in the zeitgeist. Tons of people have seen this movie and are really into discussing it right now and also kind of going back into their own Hunger Games fandom, which I love.
Honestly, I don't think I ever left the Hunger Games fandom.
I never left. I've been there for a decade.
I watch it on a yearly basis. I watch Catching Fire.
That is Paula's favorite Hunger Games
times
movie,
a year.
Even though she's wrong. Isn't that so crazy? Isn't it so crazy that she's wrong about her favorite movie of a franchise?
I don't know about it being the best one.
It's just your favorite.
You get a Gale kiss and a Peter kiss.
You're the worst person. My favorite Hunger Games movie is the first one. The production value is so high, but it has the feel of being almost like a more independent movie. Like, it feels incredibly raw. And I think that was like the perfect tone for the first movie, introducing us to these characters and introducing us to the brutality of their world. I didn't get into reading the books until the movies were out.
Yes, I think I read the books in 2015.
Yeah, I was in college.
The franchise as a whole is such a well executed adaptation. The writing is great. The source material is great. But I think that the production team did an amazing job.
Oh my God.
In adapting, Susan Collins' story.
A listener who is fully new to the Hunger Games franchise may just out of curiosity be listening to this, and that's totally fine. And just to give you a very, very, very high-level brief overview, the original 3 books, which are called respectively The Hunger Games, that was released in 2008, Catching Fire, that was released in 2009, and Mockingjay, that was released in 2010. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book was released 10 years later in 2020. Very, very briefly, all 4 books written by Suzanne Collins, who is a career author. This is not her only series. She's written many other books. Focus on one main female protagonist. It is a full dystopia. It is, not so distant future. There has been this horrible war. To our knowledge as the reader and to their knowledge as the people in this world, one country remains. And that country is called Panem, which is the Latin word for bread. Panem is run by this authoritarian long-term president who basically wields his power over basically what are states, but in the book are referred to as districts, of which there are 12. He holds power over the districts by subjecting them every year to an annual game where children, explicitly between the ages of 12 and 16, are sent into an arena and fight to the death until there is one quote-unquote victor, and that victor ends up winning a lifetime of basically financial stability and food for their family. Where we get in the trilogy is with final girl, Katniss Everdeen. She is a emotionally constipated 16-year-old girl from the poorest district in this country of Panem.
I think it's unfair to call her emotionally constipated. She is a child
of war and trauma and poverty and starvation. Katniss is our final girl. She is unwittingly dragged into a position of needing to participate in the Hunger Games. Again, where you are forced into an arena and fight to the death with 23 other children who are probably 99% more similar to you than they will ever be different. And because of her Liam Neeson very special set of skills, she survives, and she survives with her quote-unquote district partner, the boy from her district who was chosen to go compete with her. There's like a weird love triangle that I'm not going to get into because high level, I don't think it's that fucking important. Throughout the rest of the books, she is made the face of a revolutionary movement to overthrow the government. This incredibly oppressive, dictatorial government that has been in control of their country for like 60 plus years. This is not a spoiler anymore because the books have been out for a while. And if you don't know them, you should go read them. But at the end of so many horrible things that happen, the government is overthrown. She takes what little power she was able to accumulate to influence the direction of the new government and settles into a life of obscurity, which is what she always fucking wanted. But this is the thing. She gets the thing that she always wanted, reasonable comfort, reasonable expectation of survival. So the bare minimum in your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And dealing with the trauma of war almost destroys her life. Even when you quote unquote win the war, you don't fucking win. Ending with that, I mean, it is fucking bleak, but it is like a chef's kiss examination of the effects of war that even fucking adults don't seem to understand.
The political undertones throughout this whole series, I think that's why I can watch it so much. It's always relevant. It's always pointing the finger and holding you accountable. What are you doing? What choices are you making? It's so poignant in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Just like the micro decisions that just keep turning the needle one way or the other.
If you're looking at these books and this society on a macro level, in my opinion, as a reader and reviewer of the movies, is what people will do when their entire lives are based on survival. It's how society will strip away your humanity and how difficult it is to hold on to shreds of goodness when you are in a society that incentivizes you to make ethically and morally wrong choices. And the books were originally written for teenagers. Like, they were published by Scholastic. I don't know about globally, but I know in the US, Scholastic publishes novels for like middle schoolers. So you're talking about 11, 12, 13-year-olds being the target for these books with this really heavy content.
You can definitely see the kids that were brought up on the Hunger Games. You see how they look at issues that are going on in the world, and they look at it from a different lens than our generation even, and generations before us. There's this ultimate theme of self-preservation and what people are willing to do for self-preservation. But also, self-preservation can range from I do what I need to do to get food on the table and feed my family, to I do what I need to do to keep appearances or to keep this status that I have. Self-preservation can be Katniss Everdeen and Gail Hawthorne trying to feed their families, doing things that are illegal for them to get food on the table. And you can range that all the way through Jay Gatsby, my life needs to keep moving up. Your self-preservation for you is I do what I need to do to keep up this image. We see that aspect of it in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. What people will do to defend their self-preservation of keeping appearances and social class and blah, 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 blah.
If we are positing that the Hunger Games series examines different types of self-preservation and what that means, especially under the point of view of war and trauma and poverty and starvation, I think Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes examines what self-preservation means under the guise of pride. Because the humility between I'm going to do whatever the fuck I got to do to feed my family, which is present in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the self-preservation of if these people realize that I don't belong, it'll ruin my social life. I'll never be able to have power.
Yes. And I feel like Suzanne Collins just did it so impeccably, where it's like she takes this character that we as a whole, as a fandom, grew to hate and made us see like, oh,
there's humanity, or there was.
And how that self-preservation went from bare bones to trying to keep status
and trying to accumulate power.
You see that shift as you're watching and reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Most villain stories are for you to kind of empathize a little bit and realize like this didn't just happen. Somebody wasn't just born evil. Like,
people don't come up in a vacuum. So, right, you and I are talking about the Hunger Games from the view of self-preservation. And I think that's accurate, especially when you include Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in the canon. But one way that I've heard it examined is just the trauma of war. We as a society, we are American. That's where we live, where we grew up. That's the government we are subjected to endure. We're incredibly desensitized to war, because that's something for other places. We export war, right? The war does not happen here. We have the resources politically, militarily, financially to take war and put it somewhere else. Very Patrick SpongeBob. Just take that, push it somewhere else. Because of our desensitization to the aftermath of war and the immediate effects of it, the trauma, the rebuilding, that is outside of our collective consciousness. There are two things Americans give a fuck about, and it's in this order. Come for me, American people, but I don't think I'm wrong. Animals, pets primarily, and children. It helps if those children are white, and it helps if they're rich. Someone does something to your fucking pet, and 350 million people are ready to go square up to whoever hurt your pet. Someone did something to your beautiful white upper middle class child, 300 million people are ready to square up and go find whoever hurt your child. If something happens to a child that just crossed the southern border, I don't know. It kind of sounds like they shouldn't have come here.
Oh, are they escaping war? Aw.
That sucks. Are they escaping war that our government created by interfering in foreign governments and creating power vacuums and putting up dummy leaders? Oh my God. Anyway, I have to go Black Friday shopping. And this book does a very good job of taking war, framing it through the perspective of children. Our main characters that we follow primarily, there is not a 25-year-old among them with a fully formed brain. And seeing the effects of war on them, that somehow hits different than seeing the effects of war on grown men, than seeing the effects of war on grown women, because there is an element of choice. I'm just speaking from an American perspective because we don't have a draft anymore. Because there's no draft, and because we incentivize joining the military when you are poor, of color, and need an education, we make it seem like a choice. So when people go to war and come back different, because the war is not here, and because they chose to join the military, somehow it becomes their fault. That's like the theme of Americanness, right? The theme of individual culpability. These books zoom out from that. They make you understand that no one can control where they're born. No one can control the oppressive systems under which they are raised. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to the story of the president. So the dictator, the authoritarian dictator that she is basically battling against for all 3 books of the original trilogy. You learn from his story that he was not created in a vacuum. He has suffered trauma of war. He has suffered through starvation and poverty and losing family members. And his society is no more helpful to him in helping him process that in a healthy way than Katniss's society 65 years later. Coriolanus Snow, who we meet as a teenager in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, he has had a profound amount of loss as an 18-year-old, but feels incredibly entitled to win. He has been robbed. I don't think this is necessarily what the author was trying to do, but I think that you can view this symbolically with like incel culture and like fucked up men, because a lot of that is entitlement to a life that they don't feel like they have. 64 years later, you get Katniss Everdeen. Her life has also been marked by profound loss, poverty, starvation, pain. The lack of entitlement is what makes her the antidote to someone like Snow. She just wants to live. She just wants to survive. As you're reading the prequel, you obviously know how Snow ends up because you read, hopefully.
If you read the prequels, because you've read
the trilogy.
Unless you're like,
unless
well,
you're
You
wild.
know, unless you're wild, you're like, well, this is what happened first.
Damn.
Let me read it first. I don't know.
I mean, that'd be bold. If you did that, tell me about it, because I want to know. I respect that.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't know. But like if you're a baby and you're brand new to this world and you're like, oh, this is the prequel, let me just pick this up.
You're currently 13? Yeah.
Yeah. The movie, though, definitely relies on you having known the Hunger Games. I don't know that you can go watch the movie without previous
context. I think one of the reasons that the prequel is successful, both as a book and as a movie, is it takes your previous idea of a character and then breaks it in half. It takes your perception of Snow and goes, isn't he so fucked up and mean and like weird? And then makes you read a fucking story where you're like, I don't know, tons of bad stuff happened to him, but you think what you want.
I don't know. He looks really good with that buzz cut.
I don't know. He's a very attractive man. Do you still hate him?
I mean, he's a walking red flag, but I think red's
He's
my favorite
literally
color.
a walking red flag. He's wearing red most of the movie.
Obviously, Tom Blythe is.
Ooh.
I mean, aside from him
Honey.
being very cute, he really
crushed it.
Personified, I think, exactly what the book was giving. And again, I was going in it fresh eyes. I hadn't read the book. So Naja and I went together, and Naja's just like looking at me like waiting for the reaction.
I'm the worst person to watch something with.
They're like specific scenes I had in my head, and I can't wait to like mash those up for las redes.
Las redes sociales. Tell us a little bit about the background of this movie.
So, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, released this November 2023, was directed by Francis Lawrence. It was written by Michael Leslie, Michael Arndt, and Suzanne Collins. Queen and author of the full Hunger Games series.
I think we need to pay attention to the casting in order to acknowledge how well executed the majority of this movie is.
The movie stars Tom Blythe as Coriolanus Snow. So, It was not until I saw the movie, people, and this might be because I have a bilingual brain. I thought it was Cornelius.
Do you know how many people I've seen say that online? You're not alone.
My brain did a bilingual and my guy was just Cornelius. But anyway, starring Tom Blythe as young Coriolanus Snow.
So he's a less prominent actor, and I think he was a great choice. I think his likeness to Donald Sutherland is like enough. You believe it. And I think his portrayal is kind of emotionally complex. I think he has the right amount of vulnerability. And I think we should have gotten more than one kiss. I'll say it.
We should have definitely gotten more than one kiss.
We should.
Good job, Tom Blythe.
That was a kiss.
We have Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray. Perfect casting.
She was fucking great. She was fucking great. She was so good. Her breakout role was as Maria in Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story that came out, I believe, in 2021. So Rachel Zegler was cast as Maria from an open casting call that Steven Spielberg did for West Side Story. At the time she was cast, I think she was 16. She was young. And
baby.
She was a baby. And she was a degular high school student from fucking New Jersey.
Hey, NJ.
Hey, NJ. And she was incredible at theater and was a phenomenal, just naturally gifted singer. And
her vocals are amazing.
Her vocals are fucking bananas.
Lucy Gray Baird was perfectly casted. And she's part of a traveling group called The Covey. As I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, they give me like Romani vibes. They move around. They're artistic. Such an injection of color into this very rigid setting. It was a nice visual. Then we have Hunter Schafer as Tigress. If you watched the original Hunger Games, Tigress helps out Katniss and her crew at the end of Mockingjay. So big up to Tigress. We know that she's on the right side of history on this one.
Tigress Snow. She is related to Coriolanus. They are cousins. And we don't know with detail what happens between them. But as Paula said, at the end of Mockingjay, she is firmly on the rebellion side.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and even in this movie, she's kind of Snow's Corio, as she calls him, his moral compass. So you kind of see that early on, that she kind of helps him see things from a different side.
She does not succeed.
So then we have Peter Dinklage.
You love Peter Dinklage.
I'm a Peter Dinklage fan. I mean, I'm a Game of Thrones fan. So
Paola's not a Game of Thrones fan, my friends. I want to clarify. Paola is a Game of Thrones fucking stan with multiple capital S's. It's not quoting the show. It's not quoting the books. We started this podcast because I would call her on the phone on a Monday to like hang out when I was working remotely during COVID. And she would tell me the entire plot of every episode of Game of Thrones from season 1 to the end. And it's my favorite part of my life, genuinely.
All right. To my defense, Naja would not watch it.
No, I wouldn't. It's gory. I really don't fuck with gore. Oh, Naja, you like chick flicks because you don't fuck with gore? Wow, I'm so surprised.
So here I am, obsessed with the show, and my sister won't watch it, so I can't talk to her about the shit going on. So I needed to give her a synopsis. And
I'm not against this show. I love it.
Naja would ask follow-up questions.
I absolutely would. I ask great follow-up questions.
And after a while, she would start to ask me how things were going down in Game of Thrones because she would hear everyone else around her talk about it. And, you know, she was very prideful in her anti-Game of Thrones bubble.
I don't like gore. Why doesn't anyone listen to me?
When everybody around her was also watching Game of Thrones except for her, she would hit me up like, hey, what is it that happened? You got to tell me.
I had my oracle, and my oracle was my sister, and she kept me plugged in to the culture.
So the iconic Peter Dinklage,
cast exquisitely. Peter Dinklage plays the dean of quote unquote Capital Academy, which is the high school Coriolanus Snow attends. His name is Casca Highbottom. He is credited from the start of the movie as the creator of the Hunger Games.
And then, girl, Viola Davis.
Oh my God, she's fucking phenomenal in this.
This woman's range is spectacular. Viola Davis played the shit out of Dr. Volumnia Gaul. Like, creepy and chilling, but comical. She's the head game maker. So the OG game maker, it makes so much sense how the games continue to evolve to what they ended up being with this woman at the head. Dr. Gall is just chilling. So
Incredible. Fucking incredible.
oh my God. I read that her character is inspired by a take on an evil like Willy Wonka, like just curiosity. Like it's just crazy curiosity without any type of moral goodness.
Yeah.
And that the two colored eyes was Viola Davis's idea.
Ugh, so good.
Oof.
Just quickly, like, we haven't talked about the costumes in this at all. They are incredible. I just want to mention that, so the Academy colors are like red and white. They have a uniform, so all the kids are wearing red all the time. Dr. Gall, who is a professor at the Academy, so it makes sense that she would also wear red, wears red in the most incredible fucking way, where it genuinely looks like she is blood soaked all the time. It looks like she is a fucking butcher.
It does. They give her like this robe that's all the way down to her wrist, and then the gloves. Like she looks like she was just cutting meat out in the back.
It's incredible. It's the best.
Then we have Lucky Flickerman is played by Jason Schwartzman. They could not have found anybody better to follow up Stanley Tucci.
Jason Schwartzman, he's been in tons of shit. I know him most from a band that he used to have in the 2010s. And it was called Coconut Records.
Damn, I have never heard of that band.
That's a real deep cut. If you have seen the Hunger Games movies, the Jennifer Lawrence movies, right? Stanley Tucci is our Capitol TV presenter, morally neutral. His strings are firmly pulled by the Capitol. He is a propagandist. He plays this fucking incredibly, like, grating, loud TV guy who is exquisite. And they cast him for Caesar Flickerman incredibly well. And what we learn is that shit was family business. His father is the OG, original TV presenter who cut his teeth and built his career on presenting the Hunger Games for the Capitol. Oh, God, I love Stanley Tucci, by the way. He's so fucking cool.
That's another one with range.
Yo, range and, like, Riz. Range and Riz.
Then we have Little Innocent. I shouldn't say Little Innocent. He big. Josh Andres Rivera.
I love him. As soon as he started speaking with his voice, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I would ruin my life for you, I think.
Josh Andres Rivera plays Sejanus Plinth. And Sejanus, we learn, is just pure.
Sejanus is baby girl.
He's such a sweetheart, and to his detriment. So those are our main players. The music is by James Newton Howard with the original lyrics by Suzanne Collins. I think she's a great writer. Mm-hmm. She writes the lyrics. They're part of her story. All the songs that are in her story, she writes herself. She is a lyricist. Original lyrics, all by Suzanne Collins. Costume design done by Trish Somerville, who also did the costume design for Catching Fire.
Which is one of the best costumed Hunger Games movies.
Which is my favorite Hunger Games movie. Production design by Uli Hanich, who also did the production design for The Queen's Gambit. I can see that. The whole aesthetic of this movie is chef's kiss. The way this team came together to create this world and to sell you this story is impeccable. Quick scorecard. Straight or queer love story? This is a straight love story.
Unless
fanfic girlies are already pairing together Sejanus and Coriolanus. I think if you read a lot into Sejanus's character and his love and almost obsession with Coriolanus, our fan fiction girlies are already getting on that. Does it have source material? Yes, it is based on the 2020 book of the same name. And the story is by a woman. The movie, however, is directed by Francis Lawrence, who is a male. Trope.
Oh man, there are so many. It's a trope buffet.
We got another trope buffet here.
Trope buffet. That's my favorite lunchtime order. A nice trope buffet.
Our girl dinner here includes thirst for power, kill your love interest, betrayal, trauma of war. We definitely have the military boy pop star trope.
Why is that? I hate that I immediately knew what you were talking about. I hate that that's a fucking trope. I want to melt into the earth. I fucking hate that. She's talking about purple hearts, bitches, in case you didn't know.
Purple, not only purple
Stop
hearts.
It. There's
listen,
more.
How many military movies don't you know about the sweets, free loving, freewheeling girl falling for the hard military guy.
I can't stand your ass. You only like Purple Hearts because Nicholas Galitzina's in it.
Yes, I do. And there's no shame in my game. So,
As there shouldn't be.
as much shit as we like to talk, we all like falling for a military boy.
I'm going to counter you briefly. Military? No. But a person who is incredibly structured, stoic with no feelings, breaking open their little dumb shell and falling for someone who is like their polar opposite. This is also trope land known as Grumpy Sunshine, the super cute, sunshiny partner and the super grumpy asshole other partner. That's what we like. It's not the military.
Talk all the shit you want to talk. I'm just saying, as soon as my guy got that buzz cut and put on a dog tag,
Stop. He looked so good.
he looked.
I've never seen a man pull off a buzz cut like Tom Blythe. Never in my life.
Is it the head? Is it the shape? I don't know.
Is it
what
the Riz?
was, but it looked good.
Is it the blue eyes like those of a husky?
A real trope buffet, and we like all of them.
A real trope buffet, and we came hungry, okay? We're eating. All the girls are eating. And girls gender neutral in this context.
So it's time for our small back of book summary. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a period piece about an authoritarian world undergoing post-war reconstruction, and its filming locations, visual references, and buildings conjure liminal connotation about its brutality and its fate.
So the filming locations were primarily in Germany and Poland. And one of the things about that I love is that we get this amazing integration of historical landmarks and architecture that are more reminiscent of Eastern Europe or mid-century post-war imagery and symbolism that is woven into this movie seamlessly. I was reading an interview with the director, I think, and another one with the production designer, and it grounds you in this sense of time, because if you're thinking, I saw the Hunger Games movie in 2013, so my dumb human brain is going to be like, Hunger Games happened in 2013. You're going to go back 65 years and you're going to be in 1950 or late 1940s. What is that? That's post-war shit. That's cold concrete. That is like communism propaganda. Like there's such a distinct style of art that is associated with that time period that they latch onto and use in this movie to fucking glorious outcomes. Like it's so good. And so you see this kind of same architecture as well as this cold coloring, this blue tinted color, this foggy lack of sun, this like concrete jungle city center. We have all these visuals that in pieces of our culture, movie and TV, we associate subconsciously with communist, turn of the century architecture. We see those things and they're subconscious codes to us, little red flags that place you. And they use that and the filming locations as well as the supplemented CGI visuals so successfully in this movie, in my humble opinion.
Is expertly done. In an interview with Uli Hanich about the production, comparing the timeline of Pan Am with our real history 64 years ago became a very vital reference point for us. Even though Pan Am is fictional, we can use a combination of real historical architectural elements, fascist architecture from Germany's Third Reich, from Italy and Mussolini, from the Soviet Union, and the newer East German GDR state as the base for our thinking. So it's spot on exactly what you just described. Taking part of our physical world and physical history, it puts you right in that place and just sets you up for the rest of what's going to happen in this movie.
I have critiques of the book. I have critiques of the movie as well. I think the movie felt a little bit rushed. I mean, it was very fast paced. Some people really love that. I think there were some moments they could have lingered on. The movie, I never say this, easily could have been 2 parts.
I think we as a whole rally behind 2 parts.
Easily 2
Let's
parts.
break this down. More details, please.
Well, we love a 2-parter. The book itself is long. Like, she is thick. The book is like 400 pages.
She thick.
And the way that the book is split up structurally, and they also put this in the movie as well, it is split up into 4 parts. The 4 parts are not of equal length. They're meant to chronologically split Coriolanus in his development, right? Part 1, the mentor. He is forced into being a mentor to one of the tributes for the Hunger Games as part of his Capital Academy education. We're not going to go exactly scene by scene, but we are just going to try and capture some of the main plot points and call out some things that we really liked about the aesthetic of the movie or the way that the story was told. So what we learn about Coriolanus is that he is an orphan. His father was like a war general and his mother died in childbirth because she wasn't able to access like adequate medical care. And he is poor and he's mad about it. His family's money was invested in District 13, which if you read the original 3 books, District 13 is like this fucking mythical place.
District 13 started the initial rebellion.
They're a huge part of the rebellion that started the quote unquote dark days and that ultimately ends up overturning the government 75 years later. As far as you're aware, in this book, District 13 does not exist. Because it doesn't exist, Coriolanus' family has lost their fortune. He's essentially keeping up appearances every single day. So he is trying to find a way to earn a scholarship to university so he could eventually get a good job, probably in politics, and become the president of Panem. That is his goal. And he's just trying to fucking eat. There's not enough food. He, his grandmother, and his cousin, also left orphaned by the war, are starving.
One of the most jarring scenes for me was right at the beginning where they show 2 kids who you learn to be Coriolanus and Tigris, and they're like scrounging for food outside. And it's like they're in a war zone. The city is destroyed. They're scrounging through rubble and garbage. There's dead bodies and they're trying to find food. And then they hear something and they turn around and it's another person going up to a dead body and literally chopping it up to avoid starvation. Tigris, who's the older one, looks at Coriolanus and pretty much explains to him like he's trying not to starve to death. And then it cuts to them being older and Coriolanus getting ready for his graduation. And he's waiting for Tigris to come bring him an old shirt that used to be his father's that she's trying to fix up for him so that he can look presentable for his graduation. That's all he has.
The movie explains verbally, as movies often do, a little bit of the story of their poverty and how intense it is. And they do a little bit of like subtle exposition with their apartment, right? Like you could tell that their apartment was once grand and very gorgeous and it is fucking falling apart. That shit is dilapidated. His entire thing is like, no one can know how poor we are. No one can know how much we struggle. That act consumes his entire life. And through memories in the book, they kind of really drive home how poor they were and how close they were to dying many times. You learn a lot more about the depth of their poverty from the book and the depth of his trauma, because it is mentioned at the start of the movie, but they really have to go quickly through it because they have to get to the rest. They have to get to the plot.
Well, no, I think they drive it home with that visual of them as kids in a war zone. And then when he's getting ready, you see his grandmother's in like tattered clothes, and
it's very Grey Gardens.
Grandma gives me Edie from Grey Garden vibes. And his grandma's like a super patriot.
Really fucks with the capital.
You can tell that she has some emotional trauma with the war, how the war went. She lost her son. She's experiencing great grief and loss.
And I think that's one part of Coriolanus as the character and his family and the people in the capital in his like age group. They are living in that trauma like every day. You're too filled with rage and grief to believe that, quote unquote, the other side is also made up of people who have also gone through similar trauma. If you're looking at parallels between Coriolanus and Katniss's father also dies just at his fucking job in an incredible unsafe coal mine. So they're both becoming, quote unquote, the man or the woman of their families, the person who has to become a provider.
Katniss' father dies because of the terrible condition of working on the mines, and she blames the capital for that. Coriolanus' father died as a general in the war. He blames the districts for that.
They really set up for you early the resentment that he has for the districts, but specifically District 12. We get this insight into what his childhood was like, his family, their position in society. And even once he's at school, like, we kind of see where he's at in terms of like popularity, how he interacts with his classmates. He's very, very political. And the book is told from the third person, but you get his inner monologue the entire time. He is doing a running list of mental calculations every single time he talks to someone, every single time he does anything. He's tactical to an extent that is exhausting, or must be for him. It exhausts the reader. Like, he gets to the school and he goes and graduates, and like they announce that they're going to be awarding this monetary prize. That prize was meant to go to the student at the top of the class. That student was Coriolanus. They change all of the rules. What ends up happening is that these graduates are essentially voluntold to become mentors in the new Hunger Games. The game makers, quote unquote, who control how these games happen, basically introduce this new program where they're like, we think it will increase engagement if we take people from the capital, pair them up with people from the districts. They're all kind of in the same similar age group, and you can try and help them win the games. And it'll make people in the capital like care more. No one wants to watch these, which we've talked about at length before. Everyone's like, oh shit. And then they're kind of like going through their heads, well, what are the best districts? Well, District 1 and District 2 are the best ones because they have the most well-fed kids. And District 12 is poor as fuck, and no one wants those tributes. Mm-hmm. And everyone gets assigned their tributes. Coriolanus Snow gets the girl, already a disadvantage.
Here you meet Dean Highbottom at graduation, and you realize that he has it out for Snow. On a personal level, you're not sure why that is, but all the effort that Snow put in that day to present himself as an equal to his peers, Dean Highbottom pretty much sets him aside and is like, hey, I know you ain't got shit. I know that was your father's old shirt. You barely fit into your shoes. Like, what do you think you're doing? I know your family doesn't have shit. So he brings him down. So once they let the graduates know that they're going to be assigned a tribute for the Hunger Games, as the tributes are being reaped, he calls out which graduate is assigned as their mentor. Mm-hmm. Dean Highbottom assigns him to Lucy Gray of District 12, the district where his father died, and also the weakest district.
They're the weakest and the poorest.
They're the weakest because they are the poorest.
And it's generally understood that District 12 dies immediately. Those kids can't fight. They have no energy. They're done for. And you could see that as like Highbottom is just trying to knock this motherfucker down. And Peter Dinklage delivers an incredible fucking line at this point in the movie. He is ragging on Snow and he's just like, oh, do you hear that? That's the sound of snow falling. Ooh! Bars! Ooh. What a fucking line. And so at this point, we're kind of introduced to some of the elder members of the society. So it's not just Dean Highbottom, who is like a professor at this school. It's also Dr. Gall, who's portrayed by Viola Davis. And she is the head game maker. So she is in charge of like designing these games, implementing new ideas. And we get Lucky Flickerman, who is the TV presenter, glorified weatherman, doesn't have much of a career yet. And one thing that I think the movie does really well, because you see them in person, is that it exposes the ineptitude of the adults. Not the ineptitude, like how ineffective they are. Because Dean Highbottom hates the games, and he's credited as the inventor of the games and is a famous drug addict. Like, he's addicted to basically their form of like opiates, because that is his trauma. That's his cross to bear, his involvement in creating the games. Even though he hates the games and will constantly make like side comments about like, maybe the games shouldn't exist. Maybe we should let them end. Maybe we shouldn't be televising this, da-da-da. He is clearly doing nothing to actually end them. Dr. Gall is just evil. So her character in that way is flat. Lucky Flickerman, he's another one. He's just trying to social climb. He's just trying to have more money, more prestige, and build up his career. And he can do that if the Hunger Games are more popular because he's the host.
He's like the only like news anchor in all of Pan Am.
The only
and
fucking
he has
one.
to cover every single.
They literally.
He has to cover everything that happens.
They interrupt the Hunger Games feed to show the weather. It's so funny.
And it's him. Like, he goes from hosting the Hunger Games to giving you the weather to doing a match. Like, he's the entertainment. They only had money for one entertainer at this party. And it's Lucky Flickerman.
And luckily he was free that night. The adults are also kind of bumbling around.
They feel inefficient. They do. I mean, not that I want efficiency when it comes to the Hunger Games, But these adults, they weren't kids during the war. They were fully trying to just make it, protect their families, protect their jobs, whatever. So they're also not apt to do what they're doing.
They're just some guy.
Just take a nap. So they quite literally just go to the younger generation. Hey guys, hey graduates, help us make this better. What we're doing is not working.
And here are the stakes. Money.
So this thing that you were going to have for just being a great student, now you have to make the games better.
Now that the stakes are set, right? And we understand that Coriolanus was basically purposely assigned what you would assume to be the worst tribute. We see televised reapings, right? They're streaming them live. The reapings is like, who are you choosing to be in the Hunger Games? These two kids. We get to her reaping at the very, very end. And before she gets up there on stage, you realize that she drops a snake in a girl's dress. And you don't necessarily understand why, but you do know that she and the girl are beefing. And the girl is happy to see her get taken for the Hunger Games. She basically wants her to die. Lucy Gray is District 12 tribute's name. She walks by, drops a snake in the back of this bitch's dress. Everybody goes into a panic. She gets on stage. The mayor slaps the shit out of her. And she gets up after all of this, after literally basically being called to her death, and sings this banging ass fucking song. You're reading the lyrics and it's like, nothing you can take from me is ever worth keeping. You can't crush who I am, either because you are taking my life or because you're putting me in these games.
As the movie viewer, I am not expecting this at all. And I think that's what you're supposed to get. Like having Katniss's reaping in my mind and how solemn that was. And like, I was not expecting like this firecracker of a person to come out of District 12.
And immediately everyone's like, oh shit, who's that?
And now where he was initially disappointed, he's like, okay, I think I can do something with this.
She is his tribute. They gather up all of the tributes on like this one horrible livestock train and bring them to the Capitol and drop them off in a zoo, like to exhibit them as if they're animals. And Coriolanus is already trying to play this different. He's like, I need to partner with her. We need to help each other. I try to help her live. She tries to help me get this fucking money, get my bag. It's less about her safety. It's more about his advancement.
So he decides to meet them when they arrive to the Capitol. And this is where you realize that they're literally in cattle transport carts. And when he meets her with a white rose as like an extension of friendship, right? White rose, it symbolizes loyalty, symbolizes purity. In Catching Fire, when President Snow visits Katniss in District 12, he gives her a white rose. Right after he says to her, I want to be friends, but if not friends, allies. When he's talking to her about needing to calm the districts and asking Katniss, hey, these people are kind of looking to you. You've become kind of a symbol of hope.
Wouldn't it be sick if you helped me? And I'll help you.
Let's be allies. And that's exactly what young Coriolanus, that's his extension to Lucy when he gives her that white rose. Like, hey, I'm here. We're friends, right? We're cool.
I'm your mentor. I'm supposed to help you.
So that was another parallel. I was like, oh shit.
God, dude, I totally fucking forgot about that. So they meet and it's kind of instant chemistry between them and instant disgust on his part at how the tributes are treated. No one in the Capitol knows what happens to the tributes once they're reaped. They don't know how to get to the Capitol. They don't particularly care. And he's like, wait, what's happening? Why are they getting here? Why are they all dirty? Why aren't they allowed to use the bathroom? Why are they like covered in sick?
They can't even shower.
Some of them have thrown up. Like, what is this? They all look and smell like garbage. Of course, you're not going to treat them like people. And he kind of like is exposed to all of this. They're literally kept in a cage. They're kept in an enclosure at the zoo. And for everybody to come and see them.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it when I was watching that.
Of course, because this is like a book with teenagers in it and stuff, they kind of start to develop feelings for each other. He starts to see her as a human person. For a second, knowing everything that has happened in the trilogy, where he does not redeem himself ever, for a second, you're like, oh my God, maybe he's good.
you start rooting for him.
He's sneaking her food. He's telling her tips and tricks. He's bringing her soap so she can clean her face. He like is trying to do all of these things to really humanize her. And we kind of start to learn how influential Snow is, because as soon as his classmates see him start to treat his tribute just like a human person, they all come and they're like, damn, you're a kiss ass. You're trying to make us look bad. Now I have to go talk to my tribute. He's a strategist. The most notable, the most important of Coriolanus' classmates is a classmate named Sejanus Plinth, who is the sole only child of a massive war, guns, munitions manufacturer. His father is originally from District 2, which is in the later books described as kind of like the war command center for the capital. And so Sejanus' father, from this war, has made a fuck ton of money. How American of him. Wow. So he has made a shit ton of money selling weapons during this war and was essentially, quote unquote, allowed to move into the capital and continue his life there. But because he is a person from the districts against snotty people from the capital, he is 1,000% more humble and a way nicer person.
Well, Sejanus' thing is like, that could have, it could have been me. Like,
Right.
These are my friends. These are the people that I grew up around who are going to the reaping right now as we speak. In the movie, you don't really get a lot from Coriolanus' face. And I don't think you're meant to. You're meant to not really know, does he sympathize with him or does he not? But he also doesn't go against him. His stance at the beginning of the movie is very much like, he's just trying to excel. There's no malice. You don't see any malice. You're just like, all right, here's a kid who's like been dealt terrible cards and he's trying to make the best of it.
Genuinely, truly, I feel like the first half of the book, Coriolanus is amoral. He is like, being nice to her differentiates me from my classmates. That'll get me attention. The attention will be good. Everyone will think that I'm really nice and dignified. Between the tributes arriving and Coriolanus starting to get to know his tribute, Lucy Gray Baird, this like singer from District 12, beautiful girl, to the start of the games, the period of time is really only about a week. But shit goes sideways fast. In wild circumstances, a bunch of the tributes end up dead before they even get to the games. A bunch of his classmates end up dead before they even get to the games. It's something like 10 of them between tributes and classmates are dead before the games even start. The stakes are even higher because now that the capital has lost some of their own children, they're fucking pissed. One of the instances in which a bunch of people are killed is a visit of the arena with both tributes and mentors. Basically for them to walk around, lay of the land. It's this old, like Greek-looking arena from earlier days of capital prosperity. It's relatively well preserved until, as they're walking through with camera crews, filming them, because this is a spectacle, bombs go off and fucking destroy half the place. Kill like 4 or 5 people. One of the tributes goes running free through the streets, determined to escape. And Coriolanus is injured.
A beam falls on him. He's injured and trapped.
And low-key almost on fire. And the only reason he survives is because Lucy Gray, instead of running away and trying to make an escape, comes back to save him.
After that happens and he's in the hospital recovering, as the viewer, you see him and there's this point where, he's like very grateful to her. He's like, she could have escaped and she risked her life to save me. You kind of see like more of a resolve to help her succeed in the games and to help her survive.
I wouldn't be here without her and I need to repay the favor.
Right. Now, this is what I get as a viewer of the movie. What's the dialogue in the book pertaining to that situation?
So he's grateful to her. He's already infatuated with her. I guess I was saying in love. I don't 100% know that Snow's capable of love, but his infatuation with Lucy Gray is like intense. He starts to get weird and obsessive and incredibly possessive.
So she's his now. You're mine now.
You're mine. He feels this eternal sense of entitlement to things, and Lucy Gray becomes one of those things. He kind of stops seeing her as a person and starts seeing her as a possession. Once that possession has independent thoughts and feelings, ooh, shit's gonna go south, baby. So He's injured. She survives. They do like a little televised interview or whatever of the remaining tributes because, again, a bunch of them are dead. A couple of the ideas that Coriolanus has pitched to the game makers have already been implemented, which is people betting on tributes, that money from their betting being used to send tributes gifts, known as like sponsorship gifts, a little spawn con for all of us here on Instagram. He has implemented these things and they're working. People are tuning in more. The Capitolites care about the games and they care about Lucy Gray, who sings. She's so pretty. She doesn't really identify with District 12. Like, everyone really is rooting for Lucy Gray. But she's petite, and she's from a poor district, and she's a girl.
They're expecting her to die. Like, they're rooting. They're not.
Immediately.
They like her, but they're like, oh, she's going to die.
So sad that she's going to die.
Snow meets with Lucy Gray the night before and tells her it's another thing. And it's almost chilling. Like, he tells her exactly what Haymitch tells Katniss at the beginning of her games.
Yo,
run.
You're getting me with this. You are killing me with this. I love it.
Run. Don't go to the middle. Don't grab a weapon. Snow literally just looked around at one point where he visited the arena and he's like, I noticed that there was like a hole. There's tunnels in the arena.
He's basically like, hide in the tunnels, wait everyone out. If they don't die, because they're already starving. Several of them are already sick. So he's just like, wait them out. If they don't die because they kill each other, they'll die from disease. I'll try my best to send you water. I'll try my best to send you food.
Hide. Don't go into the bloodbath. And he also gives her a little compact that used to be his mother's and puts rat poison in there. In case of anything, she can kill without killing. And this is like a really touching scene because this is the night before the Hunger Games. He meets her at the zoo where they're at and they're speaking through this cage. And he's like, giving her this advice. And she leans in for a kiss and he pulls back. Like, so there's already this pull that they have towards each other. They've already been through a traumatic experience just in these couple of days that they've been dealing with each other. But he wipes tears from her eyes with his handkerchief. And that comes back later.
It's not just her neck on the line. It's also his, in a way. Obviously, it's not life or death, but to him, it feels that way. And we get into the games. All of the Capital mentors, like the student mentors, are kind of in this great big auditorium type room just watching the live feed of the games. Again, from the original trilogy, the technology in the OG books is incredibly advanced, right? It's like sci-fi dystopia advanced. They've got cameras, eyes and ears, recording devices everywhere. In the 10th games, which is really, you're coming into a country that is under construction still, recovering from this war, the tech is way more rudimentary. There are a few fixed cameras. They don't have mics, so you can't hear what the tributes are saying to each other. In that way, it's like less fun to watch. And so they take some of the technology that they used for quote unquote the war or monitoring rebels, and they try to retrofit that technology into making the games more immersive and more interesting. And what ends up happening throughout the course of the games, which really the games only last like 6 or 7 days. It's like not that long in the book.
It feels like it's not that long in the movie.
That's
in the movie,
true.
It felt like it was 2 or 3 days.
Snow is kind of enters the arena during the active games and is kind of like pushed into fighting with the tributes before he's allowed to escape.
Sejanus sneaks into the arena because he feels so terrible about his tribute who died.
They don't explain in the movie, but in the book, Sejanus goes into the arena because every district has their own type of bread and their own rituals that they perform with bread. The ritual in District 2 is taking breadcrumbs, sprinkling it over someone's body, and it's supposed to symbolize sustenance for their journey into the next life, which is kind of beautiful.
It is. And Sejanus sneaks into the arena during the games while everybody's asleep, so nobody really catches this. Mm-hmm. The game maker catches this, tells Snow about it, and tells him, hey, I know Sejanus is your friend.
And he goes, we're not friends. She's like, you're friends.
He talks to you all the time.
Yeah.
And sends him to get him. And she pretty much says, I'm going to cut the cameras so you can go do this thing. He goes Sejanus fully was going to stay as a rebellious statement. He was going to stay and fight to his death or allow himself to be killed as a protest to this game. I mean, his dad is Mr. Plinth or whatever.
Jeff Bezos of Panem.
In the process of trying to get Sejanus out of the arena discreetly, some tributes that were like in the outskirts or down in the tunnels, they come up from the tunnels or something, and they see them, and now they're running to attack them. And now Sejanus, now he wants to move. Sejanus and Snow haul ass out of the arena. The only thing separating the arena from like the outside world is a turnstile and like a gate. So they run through the turnstile. There's a kid that comes, hurts Coriolanus. Coriolanus instinctively grabs something and bludgeons this kid to death. He did it more than he needed to. He didn't need to hit him that many times.
But he did.
He definitely went in one or two more times than he needed to kill this kid, which gave you the impression like, oh shit, this guy, he has no problem beating you to death.
Yeah. As the kid is like running towards him, he has the club and he puts his other hand out and he's like, I don't want to hurt you. And the kid is like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna kill your ass.
They get out of there.
As the games go on, his motivations kind of change from I'm trying to save both of us because I need to fucking get to school and get some money for food, to she needs to get out of there alive. She is mine. I possess her. And the events of the games are fucking bananas. All these kids fucking kill each other and die. It's so fucking grueling and miserable. There's a girl from District 4 who kind of emerges as like the tribute to beat. She's strong. She's big. She builds an alliance of like 5 other tributes, and they basically hunt like a pack. So that is a theme that kind of seems to happen throughout all of the games. Like some people will make an alliance and then they'll just go around picking off the other people, and then they turn against each other. And we see her kill members of her pack. We see her going after the youngest tributes and killing them quickly. And at the end of the games, as everything is really coming to like a fever pitch, wrapping up, there are like 3 or 4 of them left, and they're kind of all dying in rapid succession. It's one of the first times that we get like big interference from the Capitol, which is they drop this pit of snakes, of like genetically modified snakes, into the arena, essentially to kill them all.
The president's son, who was injured in the rebellion attack, was in the hospital due to his injuries. He succumbed to his injuries and he died. Because of his death, the game maker wanted to get revenge on the tributes.
She goes scorched earth. Like, fuck all your kids.
Fuck these kids. And so she essentially wants to cancel the games, wants nobody to survive, and decides to take this barrel of snakes that we see earlier on in the movie. When Snow has his proposal, there's a girl that kind of tries to take credit for it. We see that Viola Davis's character takes the proposal, throws it in a snake pit, and is like, all right, well, go grab the proposal. The snake will only attack the person whose scent it doesn't recognize. We see that it attacks the girl who tried to take credit for Snow's proposal for something she didn't do, because her paper didn't have the scent on it. It only had Snow's scent on it because only he worked on it and only he held it. And so it doesn't attack him. Snow remembers this. At some point while the games are going on and he starts to see that it's coming down to a handful of tributes, for some reason, he has this feeling that Dr. Gull is up to something. He goes to visit Dr. Gull with the pretense that he needs help with his injury that he got on his back, some stitches.
When Snow visits Dr. Gull, he gets the impression from weird things that she says and from these snakes that he's already been exposed to as a student that the snakes are going to be used in the Hunger Games. That they're essentially going to be dropped into the arena and will fuck up all the tributes, scorched earth. He really does not want Lucy Gray to die. Not only because, you know, it nullifies his win as like the best mentor, etc., but he's viewing her as like a possession, an extension of himself, a romantic interest, and he's incredibly infatuated with her. So he wants her to live. And as he's learning this from Dr. Gall, and he realizes that he has one thing with Lucy Gray's scent on it, which is her tears from when she cried and he wiped her face with his handkerchief. He decides, just as a last-ditch effort, it might not even work, I'm going to take my handkerchief embroidered with my father's initials, and I'm going to drop it into the snake pit because they already know my scent, right, from my paper, but they're also going to know her scent from her tears. And it might not even work. It might not even work, but I'm going to try it. Anyone who's left, I think it's 4 of them are left, are essentially immediately consumed by snakes, and it's like kind of horrific. The one thing that I wanted to call out about the girl from District 4 is that as the snakes are coming for her, because it's so many fucking snakes, like, as the snakes are coming for them all, the girl from District 4 is trying to kill Lucy Gray. She has had a fucking bee in her bonnet about Lucy Gray this whole time, and she wants to fucking get her. This part just like really got to me, dude. As the snakes are ascending upon District 4 female tribute and Lucy Gray, and they're frantically climbing up all of this rubble from the broken arena trying to get away from these snakes. The snakes are coming up her legs and like coming up her torso. It's the end. And she goes, I can't have killed all of those kids for nothing.
Oh, yes.
And
I
then dies.
You're watching this and you're like,
she sucks ass. She's terrible.
Ganging up on these kids and she's killing everyone. And to her, she's like, this is what I have to do to survive. Like, as she's being eaten by the snakes, for that to be her last line is so heartbreaking because you automatically see the humanity again in that she hated that she needed to do this, but she saw it as a necessity for her to be able to survive.
It's super fucking sad. And she gets consumed. That's a feature wrap on Coral. Lucy Gray is like, okay.
My turn.
I'm done now. I'm gonna die.
She starts to sing and she thinks it's her last moments, and the snakes are coming up to her, but they're not harming her.
They're just hanging out.
They climb up on her. They roll onto her hands. And I mean, she's pretty comfortable with snakes, as we learned in the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. But she continues to sing. You know that it's because of the handkerchief. However, everyone watching, specifically Dr. Gall, who knows that she is supposed to be also consumed by the snakes, is like, why aren't they eating her? And they kind of all collectively contributed to her singing. But Dr. Gall knows because she looks at Snow like, you were in my lab yesterday. Okay.
And Snow, in a rare emotional outburst, is like, get her the fuck out of the arena.
She was waiting for the snakes to attack Lucy Gray, and it wasn't happening. And she's just letting it go on. She's letting it go on. And it got to the point where Snow's like, call it. Let her out. This inspires everyone in this class, like hundreds of students, all start getting up and start to chant, let her out. Like, nobody wants to see this. They need this hope, right? Out of all this fucking barbaric shit, they at least need this one piece of hope and light, and that is for her to survive. And she's forced to call the games.
I think it's emotional, rare from Snow, but it's also symbolic of how influential he is when he decides to be. Mm-hmm. Whether it's because he's been able to be such a politician with his classmates, he is so influential. Like, people will just agree with shit he says. So as soon as he's like, dude, what the fuck? Everybody gets her out. Literally, like, they decide to get her out. It's either that very night or the next morning. It's a little foggy in the book, or in the movie rather. In the book, it is the next morning. He is called down to the school and he's like, I'm going to get my prize. I'm going to get my money. I'm going to get my girl. We're Gucci, baby. Wrong. Casca Highbottom, Peter Dinklage, is waiting for him in an empty room with 2 things on an otherwise empty table. Those things are Snow's mother's silver compact that he had given to Lucy Gray filled with rat poison. And the other is his handkerchief with his father's initials embroidered in the corner. Again, Casca Highbottom was intimately familiar with the Snows, prior to the war, the Hunger Games, Snow being born, everything. And this is where we learn of his animosity towards Snow and how much he likens Coriolanus to his father. His father is like seen as like generally not a good person. Basically, he's like, how many times did I see your mother powder her face using that compact? I would recognize it anywhere. And your father's initials on his handkerchief. You cheated. We should have you killed. But instead, we're going to send you to be a fucking peacekeeper in the districts. Yeah, good fucking riddance. Get the fuck out, dumb bitch. And Snow is fucking devastated. Obviously, he could have gone to jail. He could have been killed by the Capitol for cheating. Now he's going to go be a peacekeeper, and that sucks, but he's going to see what he can make of this. He's going to take these lemons, and he's going to find out what the fuck he can do with them. They show him going to the reporting to his post at the peacekeeper recruiting office. They're like, you're going to District 8. And he takes out a handful of money that he got from God knows where and gives it to the person behind the desk and goes, send me to 12. Broop, broop, broop.
Hoping that he'll bump into Lucy Gray.
Snow goes to 12. He's on a train by himself. His head is shaved. No one fucking pulls off a buzz cut like Tom Blythe. Who does he find there, baby? Sejanus Plinth, who has also decided after he learned that Coriolanus was forced to become a peacekeeper, Sejanus willfully became one to go there with him together.
Because he thinks himself Snow's very, very best friend.
But Sejanus is canonically gay. No, I'm kidding.
As a viewer of the movie, you understand that this friendship is mutual. Sejanus calls him his best friend. And I don't know that you ever hear Snow saying that explicitly.
No.
He also doesn't challenge it. In the movie, you get the impression that this is a mutual friendship. And when Sejanus arrives, I feel like you get this moment of annoyance that I don't know that I clocked before when he's interacting with Sejanus. To me, it's like, here he is. He's like on this train to go meet his girl. Now he's got a third wheel. But as I hear from book readers, that's a little bit different. So what's his thought process when he sees Sejanus join him on the train to District 12?
It's like 90%, aw shit, here we go again. And it's 10%, oh, this is kind of nice. There's a smidgen of like, oh, because it's someone he knows, it's a little bit of a relief to know someone. But 90% is too small. It's like 98%. What the fuck, dude? Why are you fucking here? In the movie, they give it almost like a little brother vibe where Sejanus is like, I came with you. And Snow is like, oh, I'm going to have to keep protecting you. And like,
right.
That dynamic isn't as present in the book. Like the little brotherness of it. It's more that Snow keeps being a politician. So he keeps being like, Sejanus, if you do rebellious shit, you're gonna fucking get hurt. What the fuck are you doing? If you keep talking to these people, you're gonna get caught up in it. What are you doing? There's a level of like anger to it because he's like, I'm stuck here. You can go home at any fucking time.
Like you could have chosen to go home. Why? I'm here because I was assigned, and like 12 was just where I decided to go and maybe find Lucy.
And you choosing to be here is bullshit. Right. If I were you, I never would have chosen this.
Of course, he would have continued to social climb. Where Sejanus doesn't care about social climbing, he cares more about helping out the districts.
We haven't necessarily explained like the politics of Sejanus Plinth, right? Sejanus Plinth, baby girl. Josh Andres Rivera, baby girl. He is our Peter Millark in this movie.
Oh, he's like the goodness, yeah.
He's a blend of Peter Millark and Gail Hawthorne, and I will explain why. Peter Millark, in that he is innately good. Like, Sejanus only wants people to be okay and does not fucking see the point of all this cruel shit that we do. Sejanus is from District 2. He's not a born Capitolite. District 2 is like the war district. I forget. I'm loose on that. I think it's like they make weapons and shit. So his family is like hyper wealthy. His dad is Jeff Bezos of war weapons. The shit that the Capitol used to fuck up the lives of the rebels in the districts. And Sejanus, being from the districts, sees both sides of being from the districts, knowing that people there are people, just like you and me, and living in the capital, knowing that people there are people. but they are propagandized to see each other with so much antagonism, because the antagonism goes both ways. And I'm not going to lie to you, the antagonism towards the Capitol is warranted.
However, I hear that in the books, he just does not like Sejanus.
He doesn't.
And you don't get that at all in the movie. Or at least for me, I didn't interpret that in the movie.
He's a lot shittier about Sejanus in the book because it's internal. Externally, his behavior towards Sejanus is neutral to soft positive. Internally, the whole time, he's like, fuck this guy. Jesus Christ. Shut up. No one can stand you. Like, he's a real messy bitch about Sejanus in his mind.
He arrives at District 12.
They do their peacekeeper training. They're like officers. They get set up in their barracks. A few weeks after he gets there, I guess they go to the Hob, right? Like they go to the old version of the Hob.
So in we're going to assume 1940s, 1950s Pan Am or 1940s, 1950s District 12, the Hob is like the place to be. It is bumping. There's a concert and people are dancing. This is where everybody goes to hang out, have drinks, socialize. And who's performing? None other than Lucy Gray. To me, when I saw him see her, I was like, oh, I wanted him to like go get her attention, but he just stands there and looks at her until she catches his eye. She almost has a more emotional, a more visual response on her face than he did. You kind of become hopeful for them.
You know shit's gonna go south, but you do become hopeful for them because you're like, oh my god, maybe they get to be happy for a little bit before shit goes south. Wrong. He ends up like punching out her ex-boyfriend.
The ex-boyfriend who cheated on her with the mayor's daughter starts to like bother her while she's performing, heckle her, really. And he comes through and he punches the fuck out of this guy. And then this creates like a brawl and everybody runs out. And he runs out and he's like upset but happy that he saw Lucy.
Yeah.
Next, you see her. She's out in the forest. I guess this is her playing on her guitar, singing a song. He finds her. He asked around where he can find Lucy. Pretty much, Lucy's kind of dealing with the fact that she had to kill people. And, you know, what she had to witness to make it out of the games alive. So they have this moment where they kind of have to remind each other, like, I had no choice but to do what I did. And he expresses to her that he chose to come to District 12 for her. And I think this kind of brings back the tenderness into the conversation, I guess, or brings back like this tender feeling that they kind of have for each other. I feel like Lucy Gray is a bit suspicious. There is something I'm not getting 100% of. Like, I think she likes him. Mm-hmm. There's something that keeps her on edge. And maybe she's not sure why. And you know she's not sure why because she continues to let that tender feeling carry her for the next portion of the movie. And I think he's battling with like the reasons why he's doing everything. But at this moment while he's in front of her, I think that he knows that he has feelings for her. And they kiss. And it's such a nice kiss. It's a good kiss. Tom Blythe.
Good on you, Tom Blythe.
And then we get like this cute little scene of them hanging out at the lake. If you're familiar with the Hunger Games books, this is the lake where Katniss meets Gale through Catching Fire. Mm-hmm. You want to be happy for them. You want them to be together, but you cannot help this eerie feeling because there is something, it's either in the shooting or in the music, that you're seeing like them be happy.
He's never comfortable. He is hates maybe that's District what it is. 12. He doesn't like nature because he's a city boy, and she knows.
That's crazy because as somebody who hasn't read the book, I still get that.
Yes.
Maybe it's how when the scenes are shot. Maybe it's just Tom Blythe's depiction.
At one point, he's like swatting away flies, and he's like, ugh. And like moving leaves and like kicking like twigs away from his feet and stuff. The covey, like the girls in the covey are like laughing at him because they're like, haha, city boy. He looks genuinely grossed out.
But he has this infatuation with Lucy Baird. Maybe that should have been a sign that this isn't gonna work out, my guy.
Lots of fucking stuff happens in District 12, unfortunately, where Snow is working as a peacekeeper. He's only there as a peacekeeper literally for like 2 months.
Yeah, during this time he starts to pick up on Sejanus's activities.
I mean, he's working with the rebels.
Coriolanus starts to notice this and he's against it.
He tells Sejanus, he's like, yo, stop what you're fucking doing. you're gonna get yourself killed or put in jail.
Or both of us.
These are the moments in both the book and the movie where he kind of lays it on thick regarding their relationship. Readers of the book know he does not like Sejanus. He keeps telling him, stop, we're friends. I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to help you. And you could kind of see that spin where I'm trying to keep you safe and you are not fucking listening to me, my dude. If you can't find yourself getting away from the fucking rebels, if you keep ending up in trouble, get your dad to buy you a ticket home. And Sejanus is like, thanks, but no thanks, motherfucker. I've got rebellion to do.
He's doing to do whatever he can to make the most changes possible. So there's a point where they're together and they're sending back the Jabberjays that have been created by the Capitol. Sejanus is going off about some plan that
he's going to run away from the districts, that they're going to try and find communities that live outside of the government, basically like underground rebellion work.
Coriolanus takes this opportunity that he has a Jabberjay in his hand and he starts the device that makes them records Sejanus talking about this plan. He puts it in a cage and puts it along with all the other Jabberjays that are being sent to the Capitol.
So in the book, he has this moment where he's like, well, no one's ever going to hear this. They can't possibly listen to all the Jabberjays. I'm just going to record it and nothing's going to happen. This isn't even my fault.
So watching it, I'm like, okay, he's definitely not his friend and he's out for him.
Yeah. Well, because Sejanus is a liability.
To kind of hear from the book reader that this is like a moment where he's like, oh, I didn't really do this. This doesn't really matter. It's not going to happen. Like, nobody's going to hear this. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? The shit he's selling to himself to make himself feel like a better person when he's actually a shit person. Like, by this point, you're like, oh, you're a shit person.
He's still fighting between his amorality and the false perception from other people that he's a good person. Like, you know that saying, like, people see others as they see themselves? He's around people, Lucy Gray and Sejanus, that have this, like, kind of innate goodness to them and this, like, moral code. And they project their perception of goodness and morality onto Snow. He doesn't have it. He's calculating and fucked up, and he brings his calculations to Sejanus and Lucy Gray. Sejanus less, because he doesn't really respect Sejanus, but Lucy Gray for sure.
You know, so his time in 12 isn't really that long. But during this time, there's a point where they're at the Hob. Lucy Gray is performing. Snow notices that Sejanus kind of like sneaks into a room somewhere. Like, he's pissed. And they're arguing. And then Lucy Baird's ex starting shit with Snow. Next thing you know, Lucy's in the room. The mayor's daughter's in the room. Now they're going at it. As she's talking all her shit and she's about to go, fucking Coriolanus Snow thinks it's the best way to stop her from doing what she's got to do. He grabs a gun and shoots her in the back as she's trying to get away. Now he's murdered the mayor's daughter. And then he also kills the ex-boyfriend.
That one is both out of he might rat us out, but also out of spite.
So he's killed the mayor's daughter, supposedly to protect Sejanus, him, and Lucy. And then he kills the ex-boyfriend, supposedly to protect Sejanus, him, and Lucy, but also he hates Lucy's ex-boyfriend. And now him and Sejanus get into this heated argument because he's like, I fucking told you to stop dealing with these people. What the fuck are you doing? Now they're planning to escape.
So Janus was like, I didn't know they were going to get weapons. I'm so angry, whatever. And Snow was like, you fucking idiot. How many times I have to tell you? And unfortunately, there are many times throughout this story where you kind of agree with Snow because he's smart. He is unfortunately smart. So sometimes he says shit and you're like, damn.
One of the guys that was there, he's like, take these guns and hide them.
Yeah.
Put them away. Get rid of these guns.
Yeah.
He says that, but then he's like, fuck. Now there's a gun out there with my DNA on it.
He starts to calculate. Lucy Gray knows that Coriolanus has killed the mayor's daughter. He's not the one who killed the boyfriend. The other guy, the other rebel, killed the ex-boyfriend. So she knows that Coriolanus has killed the mayor's daughter.
And the kid in the arena.
And the kid in the arena. So that's 2 body count. And that's also another layer of insurance policy where he's like, fuck, the more people know the shit that I've done, the harder it is to contain. So Lucy Gray, seeing him kill this woman in cold blood, is now afraid of him, which makes sense. And the heat is on. Like, truly, all the peacekeepers, the mayor, it's his daughter, obviously, so they are mobilized. They're trying to find whoever killed his daughter. And Lucy Gray is like, dude, they're fucking with the Covey. Everybody's suspecting me because she is the reason I got sent to the Hunger Games. I need to get out of here. Like, yeah, my family's going to miss me. My Covey family is going to miss me if I go. But I need to get the fuck out of here because I am not fucking getting hanged and I'm not going to jail. I'm just going to go live in the forest, find what I can find. I just wanted to say goodbye. And I think in the movie, at this point, she's not only 1 foot out. The only thing left in the doorway is like her hand. Like she's leaving this with Coriolanus specifically, but the District 12 thing in general.
I feel like in the movie, you get the impression that she's asking him to go with her.
She's asking him to go with her in the book explicitly. But I think in the movie, she's like, do you want to go with me? Like she's kind of like, I hope you say no. Like
he gets called down by his officer. And he thinks that he's in trouble. He thinks they found the guns.
Mm-hmm.
However, the officer lets him know 2 things. 1, he has passed the officer training exam and he's going to move on to officer training in District 2. And 2, that they are so eternally grateful to him for letting the Capitol know about treacherous Sejanus. So they're showing the Capitol has received the audio that he sent because he fucking sent it. And they are thanking him for his loyalty to the Capitol. Tell me, what's his thought process when he gets this news in the book?
He's like, hell yeah.
So he's fully excited.
He's like, finally, I'm fucking getting out of here. And then he's like, fuck Lucy Gray.
In the movie, he puts up this front like he's very sad about Sejanus.
Yeah.
Because the officer's like, yo, I know he was your close friend and it must have been very hard to like rat out on him. And he's like, yeah, he was like my brother. And you're like, you're not really fucking sure what to think.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Well, this guy is such an asshole.
The book is also confusing because he's angry with Sejanus for doing the rebel thing. He feels guilty about sending the audio, but after he grieves him for like a minute, he's like, oh, well, on to the next.
All right, well.
Guess I'm going to District 2.
So then he talks to Lucy Gray.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I'm escaping. Like, I'm leaving at first light, whatever. I think he lets her know, well, they assigned me to District 2, but I'm not going to be able to make it there because once they find the guns, I'm done. Like, he's convinced they're going to find these guns and that he's toast. That's it. He's done once they find these guns. So why even go to District 2? After he lets them know, the next scene is Coriolanus Snow in his peacekeeper outfit standing at the hanging tree with Sejanus, the guy that hid the guns, prisoner that Sejanus was going to try to help escape. All 3 of them are at the hanging tree. And Sejanus calls out for Coriolanus. He calls Corio, like almost asking him for help. And Coriolanus just stands there and he cries.
He starts crying, yeah.
He's portrayed so conflicting. And you as the audience, you're conflicted. You're not sure how to feel about him. You're like, he's terrible, but he feels bad about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they hang Sejanus. They hang the other rebels. Then he meets with Lucy Gray later on.
And Lucy Gray is like shaken by the fact that Sejanus has been hanged.
She's like, this is going to be me, right? That could be me.
Yeah.
Or that can be us because we were in the same room when all the fucking shit went down.
And the only people left that know what happened are you and me.
So later on that afternoon, they decide that they're going to escape together. Snow doesn't think he has a chance to be an officer in District 12 because he feels that eventually they're going to find those guns and eventually he's toast.
Yeah.
And Lucy just doesn't want to be involved with none of the shit. She wants out. So they leave together, and next we see them walking through the forest at dawn, and they start going back and forth.
At some point, Lucy Gray's, she kind of says something like, I hope I don't have to kill anybody ever again, or like, you don't have to kill anybody ever again. And Coriolanus slips and says, yeah, honestly, 3 is enough for me. And she stops short. And this is like, they're firmly in the middle of the forest. They're close to the lake. And his guard is like a little bit further down than it should be. And she stops short and she's like, 3? The boy in the arena, the mayor's daughter. Who's the 3rd? In a smooth recovery that does nothing to make him seem less guilty, he's like, oh, my old self, who I was before I knew you.
Listen, I'm watching the movie and I'm
answer.
like, oh, that's a good save.
That shit was smooth. That shit was hella
smooth. Like, okay. I think you sold that. But then you saw Lucy's face and you're like, oh shit, she didn't buy it.
Yeah, she didn't buy that.
She didn't buy it. You might have sold it. She ain't buy it.
He sold it to me, but she didn't buy it.
It was the buzz cut and the dog tag.
That's
what it was.
It was a buzz cut. It's rude. No one should look good in a buzz cut, but Tom Blythe manages.
And you start seeing the switch. With Lucy Gray, she was kind of already feeling a little unsure.
You're suspicious of her intentions with Coriolanus almost the entire time they're in District 12. Definitely since the shooting. She's like, what are you about?
And I think that this solidified it. Right away, you were like, okay, now what? He thinks he sold it. So they get to the little cabin. He finds the guns.
That's where they were stashed.
So with finding the guns, Lucy says something smart where she's like, that's it. That's your loose end. Like, now they can't find you. Like, just get rid of them and then you're good. You're can go free back now. You can go to District 2 now, like you had said you were going to do.
Yep.
And it's almost like a test. Okay, now given the opportunity, what are you going to choose?
You literally see his entire countenance change.
Yes,
because
100%.
Now it's like, oh, fuck. I can get back home to the capital. He has this added layer of pressure because he was able to get in touch with his cousin, with Tigress, and finds out that she and his grandmother have essentially been evicted from their apartment because they can't afford to live there anymore. This like ancestral Snow apartment that's supposed to be very grand. And he's like, fuck. I haven't gotten paid yet. Like, I can't send you any money. Like, what do you need? What can I do? And Tigress is like, I'm trying to figure it out. It's okay. Like, we're moving to a new apartment. Focus on yourself. Like, and he's on edge. He's just like, I need to take care of you guys.
No, and he's right. And he's promised Tigress, I'm going to take care of this.
Yes.
I'm going to help you guys. Like, I feel like everyone around, he's like, I'm going to protect you. He feels like he needs to, I mean, I think he said it to Sejanus, but I don't think he meant it to Sejanus. I think he meant it to Lucy, though.
Yeah, he did.
And he means it to Tigress. I'm going to protect you. But protecting Tigress and protecting Lucy are two complete different things.
Yeah.
You can't do one and the other. He has to choose. So yes, this is it. And it's almost Lucy's like putting him to the test or making him choose in front of her. Kind of like, okay, well, now you can go back. What are you going to do?
And whatever she sees on his face is not satisfying.
Is not, no. And she just decides like, okay, I'm going to go get something to eat. Like, I'm going to go find food.
I'm going to go forage. I'll be right back.
As the viewer, you knew.
That bitch ain't coming back.
He knew that shit too. Because he was like, oh. I mean, I don't know how he knew it 100% because I think if he knew it 100%, he wouldn't have let her go.
Yeah.
But after a little while, he starts calling out to her and he gets no answer.
And he brings a gun.
He brings the gun with him. You believe that he brings the gun in case there's any other danger out there.
Is that what you believe?
That's what you want to fucking believe. That's
He's
what
so
we want.
good looking. It's what you want to believe.
Platinum-haired, buzz-cut, Tom Blythe.
King.
That's what we want to believe that he's doing. He goes out into this forest, calling her name, holding the gun. Now, when I see, as a viewer, I see him holding the gun, calling her name. I'm like, no.
You are hunting the shit out of her.
No. Why? No. You don't need it. Put it down.
He sees on the ground she's dropped the scarf, this scarf that he gave her. He was like, hey, this scarf belonged to my mother. I want you to have it. She's taken it off and left it on the forest floor. Now he's like upset, right? Because he's like, my mother's fucking scarf. What the hell? And he's shouting. He's just kind of like pretending she's near him, I guess. And he's like, what the hell? What are you doing? And he goes to pick up the scarf. We already know 2 instances so far of Lucy Gray being a little bit of a snake charmer. Underneath the scarf is a snake that immediately bites Snow. Bites him right on the arm.
You definitely get the impression this is a setup.
And the lights shut off in this man's mind. Lucy Gray, they're done.
This is where he completely expels her from any tender feeling he had of her in his mind. And he starts yelling, is this poisonous? Like, she tried to kill me. He fully believes she tried to kill him. And my guy grabs that gun and just starts shooting up at the trees.
He's shooting into the forest. Like, he can't.
He's shooting around him. And you feel like you see like something, almost like if it's his periphery. And they do a great job of shooting this, because like you kind of see it as if you're seeing it from your periphery.
Yeah.
And in the movie, I feel like you hear a yell, not a
you
yell,
hear
but
like a cry of pain, where you're not sure if she just fell, like she was running away from him and she fell, or he got her, like he shot her.
What you become sure of is that you do not see Lucy Gray ever again. We don't know what happened to Lucy Gray. We almost, as a viewer, you're hoping that he'll find her body, or you're hoping that you'll see her escape. Mm-hmm. You're hoping, actually, that's what you're hoping for. Yeah. You're hoping that you'll see her escape, but you're hoping closure. You get no closure. And that same feeling that you have as the viewer and as the reader of the book, because as I understand, it's the exact same in the book.
It is.
Snow lives with this for 65 more years. No closure. Where is she? Where did she go? Is she still out there?
Where did she come from? Cotton Eye Joe. And as he's trying to fucking shoot Lucy Gray, she had started singing in the forest, but it confused him because all of the mockingjays started picking up the tune.
Started singing.
So now he doesn't know what direction she's in. All the fucking birds are singing, and he starts just indiscriminately shooting up into the fucking sky. He wants to kill these fucking birds.
And my guy took this trauma and decided to inflict it on tributes in future Hunger Games. He imitated that exact feeling
in Catching Fire.
That's one of the attacks.
It's like, here's this horrible thing that happened to me. Wouldn't it be so sick if it happens to other people that I hate? And you see that he carries trauma from what happened with those Hunger Games, with Sejanus, with Lucy Gray. I mean, that shit it's a nonstop. It's just so much jam-packed into a small period of time. And it informs so many of the choices he makes that shape their world. Like, we should be getting the tributes in nice trains. We should let them shower and eat food. We should put them up in really nice accommodations. We should let them have mentors, both from the capital and from their own district. Like, things that on the surface, you're like, but these games in general are fucked up. It's like the equivalent of putting lipstick on a pig. Oh, but we don't treat them that badly.
Even up until this point, he continues on what he was offered, which was the position in District 2 to go be an officer. To me, he would have cared less if the Hunger Games continued or not.
Yes.
He's no longer involved. He doesn't care. I was caught cheating. He is removed from the Hunger Games. What ends up fucking happening is you find out Dr. Volumnia Gall intercepted this assignment and brought him back to the Capitol and reveals that this shit was all a fucking test. She's been grooming this kid, this teenager, because she saw potential in his proposal. She saw potential in his personality, in his conflict, in his internal conflict. She saw potential in him early on. And from the first time she asks him, what do the games mean? She has been grooming him to see the world and everyone that's not him as animals.
A threat.
a threat. When she meets him again after she's removed him from this assignment in District 2, she asks him again, why do we have the games? What do the games mean? What have you learned about people?
It's also something that Katniss is asked. Someone asked Katniss during the course of her games, what are the Hunger Games for? And she says robotically to punish the districts for the rebellion. When Dr. Gall asks Snow, initially, when they're still in school, none of the game shit has happened. Dr. Gall, when they're all still students, asks the class at large, what are the Hunger Games for? Everyone's response is that same robotic response, to punish the districts. At the end, Snow is back in the Capitol, back and better than ever. He goes to see Dr. Gall. She asks him finally, after all that you've seen, after all that you've been through, she's like, after everything I know you've done, what are the Hunger Games for? And he says, I used to think the Hunger Games were meant to punish the districts. And then I thought that the Hunger Games were meant to flex capital power and provide the districts with a shred of hope and then take it away. And then I realized the games are meant to show us who we really are.
Ooh, chilling.
Chilling is like the perfect way to describe it, because he's like, you throw someone into an arena and they will become a killer. And that's what people are.
She's the reason. She's the mastermind behind all of this. And she manipulated him to think like her. Because of that, he continued to improve on his idea of the games.
He and Dr. Gall have a nice, evil little interaction. He goes to see Dean Casca Highbottom, Peter Dinklage, who is so incredibly upset that Snow is back in the Capitol. That man is pissed. He is dressed in red, in the most gorgeous coat. His hair looks amazing. He's never looked better.
He got the pompadour?
Little pompadour, little shaved sides. Swaggy, swagoo. And he is a different person. I mean, he is colder. He's sharper. He is smug. Everything is literally coming up roses. Dean Highbottom is like, well, you win.
I thought I got fucking rid of you. Yeah.
He literally says you win. So what did you do to her? My contacts in District 12 say that they haven't seen Lucy Gray since you left. Did you kill her? Did she run away? What did you do? Because I know this is your fault. And Snow is like, I don't know. Who knows what happened to her? Anyway, I'm going to go visit the Plinths and like give them, Sejanus's stuff that was left behind in District 12. They're giving me the Plinth Prize and I'm going to go to the Academy on their dime. Dean Highbottom is like, wow. Because he knows what fucking happened. Like, that Snow found a way to sell out Sejanus, found a way to twist it so that he's still getting Plinth money, found a way to twist it so that all of his liabilities are gone, and now he just gets to start fresh, como quien dice, back in the Capitol.
All that the Plinth family knows is that Sejanus talked very highly of Coriolanus, and they were best friends. So how else to repay him for being his companion in District 12 than by helping him get through school and providing for him like they would have provided for their son, but they no longer can't because
their son's gone.
But they don't know that it's because of him that he's gone.
Yes. And even Dr. Gall is like, I know what you did to Sejanus. Don't worry, I'm not telling his family. So here's another person he's beholden to because she can sell him out. So that's the new liability, and he's going to be in service of Dr. Gall. Highbottom is just like, Jesus Christ, you're comically fucking evil.
And here's where you find out that Highbottom's intention the whole time was to stop the games. The whole time, him trying to suppress Coriolanus, him trying to get him to like stand down and like, kind of beat him down verbally, make him feel, take away the Plinth Prize from him, because there's a point where he tells him, who, I'm the one who decides who gets the Plinth Prize.
And it's not
if
you,
win,
bitch.
I'm not going to give it to you. I don't care if you're fucking Lucy, if your little Songbird wins, I'm not giving it to you. So he keeps taking away from him in an effort to demean Coriolanus, and so that Coriolanus will lose or not win the game, and so that the game won't be a success, so that the game won't continue. And instead,
He's made a monster.
All of that worked against him because instead he underestimated Coriolanus's resolve. He underestimated Dr. Gall because all of this is continuing because of Dr. Gall.
Yeah.
And it just backfired on him. And that's when you realize, like, oh shit, he was trying to stop the games and just did it very poorly.
Yeah, did a terrible job. Because he also didn't want to be seen as essentially a rebel. Like, right? Like, you don't want to be seen as the person who's like, we need to stop it. It's inhumane. He just wanted them to fail. And then everybody to be like, oops, guess we're not doing that anymore.
He wanted it to phase out.
Yeah.
Now it's the complete opposite, thanks to Snow. So apparently inside of Sejanus's belongings, there was some morphling.
Yeah, because he had an injury.
Snow apparently spiked this morphling
with rat poison.
That came back. He knows he's addicted to morphling, and so just shows it to Dean Highbottom and is pretty much like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just leave this here.
This was in Sejanus's kit, but I don't need it. You know, as they're wrapping up this conversation, Dean Highbottom is like, you know, everybody thinks that I came up with the games, but I didn't. Your father and I, one night we went out and we got drunk, and I made like a dumb joke or a dumb story while I was drunk, basically pitching the Hunger Games. And I woke up the next morning, hungover as hell, thought that it was bullshit, thought that it was nothing, except he took my idea, said that we came up with it together. And now I have to deal with knowing how many people's deaths I've been responsible for.
The fact that this shit happened on accident.
And that it was Snow's father.
The apple truly did not fall far from the tree. The rose bush grew
totally
close to the...
that bush grew roses.
Super full circle moment for the Snows. Congratulations.
Yikes.
And then Snow walks out in his dope ass
gorgeous
red
outfit.
suit. The man's a walking red flag, but red is my favorite color. Walks outside. We get this cut of the big giant statue in the center of the circle of the city center. And I'm like, oh, that's where Katniss and Peeta drove the carriage with the fire. It cuts back to him. They do this shot where they're shooting like from under him, looking up at him. And then in voiceover, you hear Donald Sutherland.
It's the things we love most that destroy us.
Oof.
Yeah, I had chills.
Oof.
I erupted in goosebumps.
Oof.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a good movie. I mean, I know we didn't give it any justice, but it truly is such a good movie, especially if you're a Hunger Games fan. If you've been riding for the Hunger Games
since 2008,
watch the movies and you revisit them every year like I do. Like, hearing this line at the end after all of the shit, you're like, oh my God.
And again, at some point when we are able to do a proper rewatch, we would want to do kind of a series on all of the Hunger Games movies and discuss them against the books. If that's something that you guys would be interested in, like, let us know in the DMs or in the comments, anything that we post.
To end on that line, already knowing how it does end for Snow, the things we love most that destroy us. Because like we mentioned before, this experience that he had with Lucy Gray carried him for the next 65 years and influenced every decision he made about the Hunger Games. When it came to Katniss, the way that this girl triggered all of these memories by her innocence, by her purity, by her singing, by the song she heard, the Mockingjay song. Ultimately, all of these things that encompasses the spirit of Lucy Gray was his downfall.
When I finished reading this book, I told Paola it was like Katniss was made in a lab specifically to trigger Snow.
Yo, Mike, seriously.
Nobody could have written her better to ruin his life.
Yo, karma. If there's any sweeter like type of what goes around comes around.
Also, the songs are really, really good. We haven't talked so much about them, but the songs are great. Obviously, The Hanging Tree.
The songs are amazing.
They're fucking great. Also, Olivia Rodrigo's theme song.
So good.
So
The
good.
soundtrack is spectacular.
Yeah, it's really
I
good.
can listen to the soundtrack without the movie. Like I can't just bump to the soundtrack.
It's so good. This was so faithful to the book and so well executed, and the production value was so fucking high. The acting was so good. I was fucking floored. I loved it.
Yeah. So,
Ooh, are we wrapping it up?
I mean, you led me right to it. On a scale from 0 to ardently admire and love.
Bitch, I ardently admire and love this shit.
Ardently admire. I think this might be your first ardently admire and love.
I can't give it a 10 because there are movies that I know are 10s for me in my heart. And so I think this movie is a hard 9, like a 9, 9.5.
Oh, wow.
I really liked it.
Well, what would have pushed it?
You know, there was a few times, and this is like very nitpicky of me, which I acknowledge. First, it should have been 2 parts. It absolutely should have been 2 parts.
They could have definitely made this into a 2-part.
There was more than enough material to make 2 90-minute movies rather than 1 2.5-hour long movie.
Because it felt a little rushed.
Yes,
It did.
they squeezed so much in there.
The end felt rushed. All right, book or movie?
Book or movie? The visuals are so good, dude. Not for the storytelling. It's just the added visuals are so good. I love how the movie did that. And the historical references that they used, the styling, this like kind of 1940s dystopia fashion they used. Like, woo! It's, oh man, I'm going to pick the movie.
I haven't read the book yet. What I've heard from the book, I'm going to really not like Snow in the book. And I liked having the bit of nuance. I like to see that more. I like to see the humanity more. I want to believe that it's there. And the visuals of the book are amazing. The music is amazing. Rachel Zegler's performance was so good.
So good.
Her voice is amazing. Her stage presence is amazing. For these reasons, I'll pick the movie. And I think that might be a first.
I agree. I usually pick the book.
Trauma. There is tons of trauma.
Oh, it's all trauma. The whole story
we're unpacking.
trauma.
The whole story is trauma.
It's all trauma.
And it's generational. And he continues to carry it through his whole life, informing all of his decisions and eventually his demise. Naja, do they stay together?
I'm gonna go ahead and say
I'll say
no.
this. They physically don't stay together. However, Snow never has closure for Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray is eternally in his mind. So no, they don't physically stay together. But listen,
She lives rent free in his head.
She lives rent free in that man's head. Will your husband watch this with you? Will your significant other watch this with you? My significant other would watch this with me once or twice. As soon as it's available on a streaming service, we're going to watch it together. I'm going to watch it a couple times more. He'll catch it. He'll dad watch it with me.
For sure. Respect.
And I can see Ryan enjoying this. Yeah.
I could see him enjoying it.
This movie right now is #1 globally. So congrats to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes team for being #1 worldwide.
Fucking crazy. Guys, as always, keep us in your thoughts and prayers. No. As always, reach out to us and give us some of your feedback. Let us know what you like to hear. Let us know if you like more of a quick and dirty recap. If you like our established format of going super deep and detailed, we seem to be incapable of not doing that. We want to know about you. In the next couple of days, or maybe already by the time this airs, we will have put together a survey with some questions. It would super duper help us if you guys answer it, just so we can learn a little bit more about our audience and honestly like what you guys are looking for. Because as much as we want to make our content with each other as sisters, the fact that we're making it and putting it out there, we want to know what drew you to this podcast, what makes you enjoy it, some things that you would want to improve or that could be beneficial to it. So it's all collaborative. We're so happy that you're here listening to us, that you give us your ears and your brains for a few hours every couple weeks. Yeah, we want that experience to be awesome for everybody. So gonna post on our Instagram about a survey. We're gonna put up links for that. We're gonna also put it in the show notes to this episode. So in your episode description on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., you will be able to find a link to the survey and let us know. Let us know what you think. Obviously, we love this movie and we would love to hear some of your thoughts on it. To the OGs, the people that we interact with the most on Instagram, you guys are the best. It's so cool meeting new people that think a lot of the same thoughts we do when we watch these movies and interact with us about them. And we really appreciate chatting with you guys every now and then on Insta and that you respond to our stories. That's really, really cool. And we hope you stick around.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. Come and find us on Instagram at SisFlixPodcast. Shoot us an email at sisflixpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think if you have suggestions or a movie request for us to cover in the future. And remember, sharing is caring. If you enjoy what you hear here, tell a friend. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.